TNN Trap News Network, we back in this thing, We like cracking this thing, man. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, everything we got going on here at TNN Trap News Network. Yes, that's TNN Trap News Network. Get into that if you ain't got into that, man. Like, comment, subscribe, and subscribe. Everything we got going on here at TNN Trap News Network, man. It's that newsington you can usington. That knowledge you ain't finna get nobody's college. You feel me? Tap in with the tap in. You feel me? Make sure. You feel me? You could always jump into this content, man. Make sure you jump into this content. Best comment between now and 25,000 subscribers. Gonna get a $200 cash app. The best comment between now and 15,000 on a new page. Get into that, man. Man at the garden comment. Man at the garden comment. Man at the garden comment. Man at the garden video out now. Please don't touch my gun. They got it. Owner is out now. Fairy Tales is out now. We finna jump into DJ Vlad and Adam 22 actually talking about Big U and the RICO, man. That's what I wanted to show you on the last video, so I apologize if you fell for the clickbait. My bad. But we finna jump into this content. Let's get into it. Let's go. Oh, wait, hold on. Now, let's get into it. Let's go.
People don't have that.
Definitely. Okay, so obviously the big, gigantic news that I probably should have started with is the fact that the Rollin' 60 RICO came down on a lot of people that only a couple of people that we have relationships with, but you and I obviously both friends with Brick Baby. You did the first ever Big U interview, I do believe. That was a really, really big deal when it first happened. Yeah. I guess I'll just start with this question, is that when you did that interview with Big U, were you completely under the impression that he was done with his street life and that he had changed his life? Because I definitely thought that at a certain point, and then at a certain point started to hear things that kind of led me to believe, in particular, Loose Cannon coming on here and talking about how he was basically the muscle for Big U, robbing weed dispensaries and strip clubs and whatnot, which ended up being in this indictment. What was your impression doing that Big U interview, and how does the RICO make you feel looking at it?
I mean, I was sad because, I had heard, stories about Big U, but when I sat down with him, he seemed like a, older guy. He had kids. He was focusing on football, focusing on legitimate businesses, focusing on, gang intervention.
My bad, I'm smiling because I just got a little fire text. Don't worry about what I got going on. That's that splat. You feel me? I need to go give me a haircut. I'm going to do that today. And I'm going to dye the grays.
And so forth. Since that time, me and him have, maintained our relationship. We talk a few times a year. I've never seen anything remotely illegal based on anything I've ever seen or any conversations we've had on or off camera. I was shocked. I was not, I was in the impression that anything was going on any level. And at the end of the day, he's still innocent until proven guilty. So, remember he made that video before he turned himself in and basically said, a bunch of this internet shit now got me caught up in this RICO, and, I got to turn myself in. It's fucked up. Brick Baby has become a regular guest on my show. I just saw him a few days ago at the Beverly Center. Just randomly ran into him. Wow. Just randomly ran into him. Like last week. Like, oh shit, what's up? Went up, gave him a hug. He had some, some people with him. I was like, oh shit, what's up? I'm sure he had no idea what was about to happen in a couple of days. So I was fucked up over that too. The other people in the indictment, I don't know. Yeah. But it's a federal RICO, right?
Yeah.
Which is ugly. This is just ugly. It's I don't. TMZ interviewed me earlier today about it. And man, I mean, I'm not. Me and Big U are cool, and I've always maintained that. And we've had multiple conversations about regular business shit. If those conversations were recorded, no problem. Put them out. You know what I'm saying? Because there's always been just regular, straightforward conversations.
And that's how I feel when people are saying like, "Oh, Adam 22 is cooperating," or "Adam 22 is probably working with the feds," or whatever. It's like, I would gladly take.
All right, so look, this is what I genuinely in my heart think. I think that the police came up to No Jumper, asked him questions, and Adam did what he had to do to get himself out the way and say, "Hey, I'm cooperating. I don't got nothing to do with the flu, flammery, skullduggery, and larceny that these niggas be having going on here at my building." You feel me? And he gave what he had to give, so his building didn't get destroyed. He kept his business. I ain't gonna say he gonna snitch on the stand, but I think Adam has done some cooperating for sure. For sure.
Every conversation that Brick Baby and I had ever had, let's say he was wearing a wire, and that audio can be released to the world. And Sure, there might be a little bit of stuff that would be a little shocking to people, but for the most part, this guy never told me where the bodies were hidden. If that, you know, to use a uncomfortable metaphor or anything, like most of these gangster dudes do not look at me or you as the shoulder to cry on about the worst things that they've ever done in their life, for the most part. That's just not really the kind of conversations that we're typically having with them, in particular because if you tell Vlad that you killed somebody, Vlad's probably going to tell you that was a bad idea. If you tell Vlad you're thinking about killing somebody, he's probably going to say, like, listen, like, you sure you want to do that? It's probably not a good idea, et cetera. It's like, why would they've got plenty of homies that they could talk to this kind of thing through with. And I just, like, you know, people think that we're maybe a little bit more involved in some of these dudes.
So here's the thing about this, though. You know what I'm saying? All this is for clout. Gang banging is 100% for clout. Gang bangers, trigger warning. Don't get mad at me. Don't want to fight me. Don't want to fight me, gang members. Don't want to fight me, but I'm going to say something that's going to make you very upset. Gang banging is 100% for clout. I got the best name. I'm the best this. I'm the best that. I'm the hardest this. I'm the hardest that. I'm infant, tiny, newborn, extra out, super killer, destroy, destructo. It's all about your name. Niggas know how I get down. Niggas know I do this. Niggas know I get money. Niggas know I fade. Niggas know I this and that, blah, blah, blah. It's all for clout. It's all for clout. So you have these gang members who've never... you know, really wanted to have notoriety for anything else, get onto these platforms, and they only speak about what they've known their whole lives that has generated clout. You feel me? They say it's not for clout, but it is for clout. The whole concept of gang banging is for clout. It's all about repping your name, repping your neighborhood. That's literally for clout. You feel me? So, long story short, they get on these platforms and they tell these crazy outlandish stories because they want to up the clout tokens. It is what it is. It's a harsh reality, but it's a very true one that, you know, nonetheless. Let me know what y'all think in the comments about that.
Lives than we actually are.
I've never been a gang member on any level. I never wanted to be a Blood or a Crip or anything else like that. I've always kept these relationships business or just friendly. You know what I mean? Like, I used to always, you know, I like telling the story because me and WACK were beefing for like 10 years, right? Not beefing, acting like we're trying to get at each other, but I knew that me and WACK didn't like each other. We were both aware of this. I was aware that if I ran into him, that something might happen. So my security was always aware of this. You know what I'm saying? Right?
Very menacing looking security, just so you guys know.
But saying that, like, for example, I never went to Big U and said, hey, I got this problem with a street guy. Can you handle it for me?
Right.
I'm like, I'll handle it myself.
Right.
Because I know that if I go to a Big U or if I go to a Brick Baby or if I go to a WACK 100 or I go to anyone who has some sort of affiliation on some level, and now I want them to handle
being any sort of remotely fearful of Rat Run Hunter is crazy. Vlad, you a whoop on Rat. You a whoop on Rat, Vlad. You ain't got to be scared of him. Don't let him shake.
Problems
don't let him spook
like
you.
that. Then now that relationship changes.
You're wrapped up in some shit that is uncomfortable.
Shit. Yeah, that now it's not a straightforward relationship. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I've always said, and I feel like that's where a lot of guys get in trouble, where they have that one friend and they have that friend handle a problem for them because they don't want to handle it themselves. And now you're somehow indebted to that guy. And you never know when they're going to pull out that card and say, okay, now I remember when I did that for you?
I had a little mini version of that where I got into a fight in probably 2017 or 2018. And there was an older gangster that was there, just happened to be around. And he said to me, like, right as the fight was getting broken up, he said, like, you want me to whoop this fool's ass? And I was like, do whatever. I might have just said, like, sure. And he punched the fool in the face right there and then. Immediately, it became clear to me that this guy felt like there was now a debt that had to be repaid. And but he wasn't looking.
He punched on something for you. Yeah, nigga, he owns you now. At that point, oh yeah, Adam 22, y'all go together. That was your put on. That was your protection put on. You feel me? Go ahead and pay the fee.
For like a financial thing or whatever. And we ended up making it cool by like me helping one of his artists out with doing a little bit of content or whatever like that. But I realized, and I'm glad that I got like a small taste of why that's a situation that you want to avoid.
Yeah.
Because once you have that hanging over your head, I mean, these are guys who don't really play by the rules. And you've officially, you know, granted, could I have gone to the cops or the feds or whatever and explained that situation? And would they have basically probably done something about it? I mean, shit, maybe. But I realized then and there that, like, you have no reason as a non-gangster to be going to any kind of gangster, even if they just happen to be around and asking
Leave the gangbangers alone.
for favors, because you don't really want to owe favors to people who operate outside of the law.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of the indictment, and I have no idea whether it's true or not, but what the feds are alleging was that, you know, they're saying that NBA players were playing Big U, like, you know,
hundreds of thousands, you know,
check-in money, and then there was a whole thing by Adrian Broner robbing some dudes at a dice game.
And Shaq allegedly moved out of LA, at least in part because he was sick of dealing with gangster bullshit, which I think when he said that back in the day, people were a little confused. Like, why would Shaq in any way be beholden to gangster interests? Now you kind of see what that might look like.
I don't know whether any of that is true, honestly, but it's sort of like, if I was an NBA player, I'd be damned if I'd be paying anybody protection money in LA. Like, that doesn't make any goddamn sense.
No,
like,
but what if they have something on you? What if they have, I don't know, some kind of involvement, something you did that basically makes it so you can't go to the cops, or you having a wall of security around you when you're out and about isn't necessarily going to do the trick. I feel like, you know, these guys are shiesty. They figure out how they can actually get to you, and they're willing to do whatever they got to do to be able to make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's the Vanilla Ice story.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Where, you know, and I went into detail with him when I first interviewed him. He said Suge would just pop up when he was like in LA, like in Benihana. He would sit down at his table, start eating his food, like literally. And then, like, one day he went back to his hotel room.
Nigga sitting there and Suge Knight, you know, imagine you at dinner, this nigga Suge Knight comes and just takes your plate and start eating your food. Like, what the hell?
And Suge and a bunch of his guys were in the hotel room, you know, and I think like Suge like grabbed the gun from a security and like smacked him or something, and it was just like, okay, this is the type of shit that was being done back in the day. I just don't think you can really get away with that kind of stuff these days because there's so many cameras, and at the point that you and here's the thing, and it doesn't always work. Like, I remember, you know, there's a story about when Death Row was first coming together. They were at Solar Record Studios. They were working out of there, and you know, Harry O was the alleged financer of Death Row. So there was a phone, like an actual like corded phone in the studio that was only to be used for when Harry O called from prison. So no one else was allowed to use this phone because it was a very important phone, you know, in the studio. And these two producers were on the phone. And I guess they're like, yo, man, Suge gonna get mad. He'd be like, yeah, whatever. We're gonna finish my phone call. Suge, I guess, pistol whipped him and stripped him and said, you know, you guys better not call the police. They went outside and called the police.
Yeah.
And then if you think about it, that arrest, you know, them pressing charges got Suge arrested and put on probation, which he violated when he kicked Orlando Anderson during the Tupac MGM brawl.
Right.
So ultimately, trying to bully your way around.
Ultimately, crime doesn't pay, babe. I mean, this just don't. Come on, man. Like, that's just what it is, baby. Like, it just, crime don't pay. It ain't finna do nothing like that. Like, it ain't. Like, all this is just a lot to do about nothing. This is just nonsensical bullshit. It's just nonsensical bullshit. Crime don't pay, baby. It just don't. It don't. Like, go get a job. Go do something. Like, all this is a lot to do about nothing. And there's so much unalivement. It's so much crime. It's so much tension. And we're literally talking about nothing. That's the message in all this. Sorry, I just had to get that PSA out there. After school special moment. This is stupid. Live up, man. Like, let's be good to one another, bro. Like, let's really start working on being good to one another. You feel me? Because all this right here, this is stupid. This is stupid. This is stupid. This is stupid. And it's a whole lot to do about absolutely nothing. It's a whole lot to do. It's a whole lot to do. It's a whole lot to do about absolutely nothing.
And feel like you're outside the law and no one's going to cooperate with the police because they're so scared of you. Ultimately send them to prison.
It's amazing to me that the extortion thing still happens because I know how serious the feds take it. I know that there's been like federal takedowns of like the Mexican gangs in the MacArthur Park area that basically are like taxing the street vendors. Which, when you think about this is incredibly low level. Because if you're taxing the hot dog cart lady,
you'd be surprised at how much money you would get if you tax 100 hot dog cart ladies. But I digress.
I mean, what are you getting? You're getting $200 a month out of her. You're maybe getting a little bit more, but
do that $200 10,000 times.
It's dog shit. It's like very bad money, but the feds take that shit super serious, at least in part because they know that that money is then being basically sent up to the big dogs in prison and everything like that. But when I see stuff like that, because I read a whole book recently about basically like a federal takedown of 18th Street gang that was like extorting people in MacArthur Park, it's just like, it just feels like that's such an easy way to draw a huge amount of attention from law enforcement. They just take extortion stuff like very, very serious. And when you think about...
Yeah, the extortion thing is huge. And that's when you start playing with the government's money and they stop getting their cut and things start getting, moved around here and moved around there and this person ain't getting that and that person ain't getting that, it's going to be a problem. Uncle Sam going to always want his end of the bag. Period, point blank. So once Uncle Sam stop getting his end of the bag, you niggas is in trouble because it's going to be a whole bunch of flu, flammy, skullduggery, and larceny. Watching this Big U situation, the biggest thing that they're hitting him with is misusage of them funds. They want to know where they money at. They want to know where them donations went. And if you ain't put them on where they were supposed to and you ain't give us our cut, your ass is going away. You feel me?
Doing that to big name celebrities, I mean, you could imagine that if Shaq made a peep to the feds, that they would just be all over it because that would just be a huge deal compared to a lot of other things that they put resources into. But I don't know, maybe they had something on Shaq that Shaq didn't want to draw attention to. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like a lot of times it's like, well, like certain celebrities don't get actual security because they're doing drugs.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And they know if they get an off-duty cop, they can't just sit there and do cocaine around them, right? Sometimes I'm sure it goes deeper. There might be underage girls, you know what I'm saying, that they don't want anyone to know about or whatever else. And this is, I think, where some of the extortion comes in. It's like, remember the Charlie Sheen situation? He had HIV.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So he was getting extorted by like a couple of people. Keep paying us these millions of dollars, or else we'll expose the world. And he just said, okay, look, I have HIV.
Right, yeah.
I'm done with it.
I remember I knew he had AIDS years before he actually did because I was hanging out with some porn star girls that used to be the Charlie's Angels. And I was f***ing some of them and somehow didn't get AIDS, thank God. But I remember them just like talking super freely to me about the fact that Charlie Sheen had AIDS and just, I was kind of wondered, I'm like, so this isn't going to make its way to the media? And then one day he came out and confessed it, and all of a sudden it was this huge story, and people made some very hilarious memes, including like my tweet.
Tiger blood,
from
back to this.
With girls, I think they call it like sisters con leche. I heard some porn girls say that the other day.
Sisters con leche.
I forget how you say sister in Spanish, but something like that.
Wait, it's hermana?
Definitely feels like this probably might not have risen to the level of this massive takedown if it wasn't for this one murder that they're alleging. That he had an artist that he was working with who I guess previously played football under him because he was a high school football coach. And this artist at one point was supposed to record in Big U's studio in Vegas. Somehow he wasn't happy with the rates that they were charging him or something. If it's his artist, I don't know why they were charging him anything to record in the space. But either way, he then records a diss song about Big U. So Big U finds out about this diss song, which I'm not sure that this diss song has ever been released. If it does get released, we're going to really have to go through the lyrics with a fine-tooth comb because that's insane. And then Big U apparently, according to the feds, was so upset about this that he shot the kid in the head, drove him into the desert, and left his body there. Now, this situation is one that Christopher Lovejoy, a.k.a. 600, who's a close associate of WACK 100, had been drawing a ton of attention to before it actually broke. And WACK himself also had kind of been acknowledging it publicly. And before the takedown took place, you were seeing a ton of people on the internet saying basically that this was disgusting and that, guys like WACK and 600 shouldn't be wishing prison upon people, etc. Then the indictment.
Yeah, because like if you're a street dude, why are you talking about this? I get that you don't like a person. I get that you ain't feeling a person. I get that, you know, you might want to do something to a person. Why are you telling on them?
Statement comes down and it's kind of like, oh, you guys were talking about some real shit, I guess.
Well, didn't you say that 600 was with the feds when the house was being raided or something like that?
Big U said that 600 was with them. I don't necessarily know that that's true. I saw a clip that I believe 600 filmed where he was driving up to Big U's house, which was taped off, and he was filming it, and he was asking the cops outside, hey, what are you doing? What was this situation or whatever?
Which was crazy because in any other situation, the cops would have been like, "Hey, bro, keep it moving. We ain't talking about that." But in 600 situation, they were like, "Oh, we're cool. Don't worry about it." It was kind of interesting. It was kind of interesting.
They raided the house. Big U wasn't actually there, but yeah, I don't think 600 was actually like rolling with the cops in that situation. That would be very out of the ordinary.
I mean, Big U has been like a figure on the internet now for quite a while. Like definitely after my interview with him.
Yeah.
Like
everybody knows about him.
Everybody knew who Big U was.
Done a bunch of TV stuff and all that.
TV stuff. Lots of people have dissed him in various ways on the internet and so forth. I've had conversations. I remember there was a whole loose cannon thing where, you know, Luce was saying how Big U somehow set up Nipsey, you know.
Which now a lot of people are looking at a little differently now.
I don't think that happened on any level. I don't think so. I remember I called you. That was one of our conversations. I was like, yo, man, I'm sorry you're going through this bullshit. Like, this is just dumb. You know what I'm saying? I think I went on No Jumper and I talked about it afterwards. And it was just like, he's like, yeah, man, this is just the bullshit I got to deal with. But, like...
Yeah, I mean, you know, when it comes down to it, though, does that count as loose? I wonder this. Loose Cannon and Big U are in the same jail right now, or on the way to being in the same jail eventually within the next few days for sure. I wonder how that's gonna work.
I never got the impression that you really, like, you're gonna kill an unknown rapper over a diss song.
Right, sounds kind of bizarre.
Nobody will really hear.
Yeah,
really, you're gonna kill a rapper that no one's ever heard of.
As of yet, I don't even know if anybody knows that person's rap name. The kid who got killed. Listen, never mind if he ever even put music out on any serious level.
Okay, like if Drake killed Kendrick over "Not Like Us" being performed at the Super Bowl, I think that would be
crazy.
Be like, all right, we kind of get it.
Yeah, bad decision, but we understand where the impulse came from.
Right, it's just like he finally reached his breaking point when it's performed at the goddamn Super Bowl.
Right.
Like, you know, whereas like Kendrick probably A minor, like the whole crowd, the whole Super Bowl singing it, you know, living rooms around the country or singing along to the shit. I'm sure at one point it's like I'm fucking sick of this. I'm so tired of hearing "Not Like Us" and these fake wild statements that I'm finally just gonna
imagine if Drake just decided to catch a body behind that.
Snap. And I have a whole bunch of people that are 10 times removed from me that'll handle it, and I'm done. So you're gonna tell me that a 50-something-year-old man who's been enjoying being out of prison for a very long time is going to go and kill someone himself over a diss song?
That being said, though,
just sounds dumb, doesn't it?
But so much of what Loose Cannon has alleged that is basically also this indictment, like, why would a guy who's in his 50s, who's presumably got a nice, cushion of money and doesn't need to be out here extorting people, why would he be running up in weed dispensaries and strip clubs and basically demanding cash for protection from them? It's like, you know, I feel like a lot of these guys...
I have no idea about anything.
Once they become career criminals, I think it's harder than we would think to let go of that life.
I don't think so.
Really? We've seen a lot of people do it. Terrence...
Seems like Adam is pushing one narrative and Vlad is like, nah, it's going to get interesting. Adam, that's why they be on your head, bro. That's why they be on your head. Shit like this.
Gangster Williams, he did a great job. He left his violent past behind, you know?
Well, I think it happens. You know, I remember speaking to, Chi Ali, and he was saying how recidivism happens when people get out younger in life. But when they get out older in life, it doesn't happen very often.
Right.
You know, I mean, you get out in your 50s, everyone that you hung around during the time that you were out is either dead, in jail, or
Right.
has really left this life completely behind, moved away, you know, doesn't want anything to do with it, or is fucked up off of drugs.
Mhm.
You see what I'm saying? Like, and like, look, Chi killed somebody. I've never heard of him getting a parking ticket since that time. No big U? Yeah.
For sure. Feared and respected, for sure.
Yeah, but like once you get to know him, like I've never had any, you know, once I got to know Big U, yeah, I mean, before I was a little worried about, you know, I remember after the interview, I was like, hey, you know, do you want me to run the titles by you before you put them on? He's like, oh man, do whatever you want. Do you. I don't care about that. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is not the reputation, not to say what people are like if you push them hard enough, but I'm saying like, I've never been scared of Big U since that interview. I've called him. He always picks up the phone. We always have cool conversations. There's never anything
Look at Vlad stand in a place of somebody who doesn't want to get involved with the involved.
negative. Like, cool dude. You know, whenever WACK would speak about him, I would always cut that part out because I'm like, I don't agree with this.
Yeah.
You know, and y'all two were friends at one point.
Yeah.
So I don't understand.
I was real cool with Big U at one point, but I remember when I first started the podcast with WACK, Brick three-wayed me on FaceTime, and it was with Big U. And Big U told me something along the lines of, hey, we cool, but I can't fuck with you. Because I was doing the podcast with WACK. You know, and it was basically what he was inferring was, I'm not going to do anything to you. You are fucking with my bro Brick, so I got to give you a little bit of leeway or whatever, but you're doing a podcast with this guy that I 1000% do not with, so I'm not having anything to do with you. And I knew that kind of thing was probably coming when I started doing the podcast with WACK.
Yeah, but for example, I never got that phone call because although I have WACK as a regular guest, I've always just avoided this topic.
I think I also was the first person to kind of like normalize WACK in a little bit more of the mainstream hip hop space. Not to say that he didn't already have his own thing going on, but as far as platforms really embracing WACK,
yeah, it was you.
Kind of cracked it open. And also, I wasn't editing anything out. He was talking about Big U, and I was attempting to put up a little bit of an argument and, you know, present the other side or whatever, but it's difficult when you're dealing with WACK.
I was just cutting it out, and I'm just like, me and you are cool. Me and Big U are cool, and I'm not getting in the middle of this. Because honestly, I honestly felt the two of them were going to be cool again at some point.
Yeah.
I just felt this was just temporary. You know what I'm saying? Because I think, like, once you get to know WACK, you realize that, like, a lot of times it doesn't run that deep in terms of, like, his, you know, what he says online and so forth. Because like leading up to me and him being cool, he was still like talking shit about me, you know, on Clubhouse and stuff like that. Like there's been a bunch of negative shit he said about me, but it's like once we became cool, it's like all that just didn't matter.
You can have a whole beef with WACK, and if you go to him and you say, yo, I'm trying to squash it or whatever, he's not the kind of person that really wants to just be engaged in cruelty towards an unwilling participant. Now, if you've got smoke for him, if you want to go on podcast, you want to shit on WACK, then WACK is going to shit on you right back, and he's probably going to find a way to up the ante and make it more painful for you than it is for him, especially him as somebody where, what are you really going to say about him? He's had everything you can say.
What Adam should have did is what Vlad did. Maintain a neutral position instead of looking like you was a big U hater alongside with WACK. Adam, sorry, Adams. But Vlad kind of, you know, he was a little bit smarter on that one.
About him, and he's maneuvered through all of it.
Right.
But yeah, from my perspective, most of the people that WACK has an issue with, if they were willing to go to his clubhouse room for an hour and take a little bit of verbal abuse in the process of getting back on good terms with him, he usually seems pretty open to that. But however, the Big U thing definitely feels like it got too deep at a certain point, and there wasn't really much coming back from it. And actually in the indictment, it says that at one point there was recorded wiretap or you know, phone recordings of Big U claiming that that he ran down on WACK with a large number of Crips with him, and that WACK was begging for forgiveness, to be left alone. Oh, I'm with my wife, I'm with my kid. I brought this up to WACK yesterday on the news over the phone. WACK said, okay, it may say that in the paperwork. He might have told people that. That didn't happen. Which,
like, at all?
WACK says it never happened. And to be fair,
What's up, little buddy? What's up? You bored? You want your brothers to play with you?
Yeah.
But they gotta finish doing their chores first. When they're done, they can play. Okay.
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 What time is it?
It's 1:33.
Oh.
Okay. I'm finna go get a haircut in a second.
A haircut?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yep, like you. Well, you got your hair braided, but I'm gonna go get a haircut.
Oh.
Okay. Can I finish this real quick? High five. Love you, Papa.
From my perspective, if you've got somebody like WACK that you want dead in your crosshairs like that, he's going to beg for forgiveness and you're just going to walk away from it. Nah, I don't think so. I feel like if you really had WACK lined up like that, you were probably going to make it a lot worse than just making him apologize and beg for forgiveness.
I feel like this is such like the hip hop story that never gets co-signed by both parties. It's like Tony Yayo said a story about how they ran up on Benzino and they gave him a pass. And then Benzino was like mad about that story, saying it didn't happen that way. And Tony was like, you know, I believe Tony's version. Like Tony has never been one to exaggerate.
Yeah.
Around me. On or off camera. Like we've had a lot of.
All right, man. So we're gonna go ahead and get up out of here to the next one, man. I go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, like, comment, subscribe, like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna go get a haircut. I'm gonna come back with a dyed beard and a fresh cut. Free Avenue Angel until he's free. We are gone.